You put the thing on?
I did.
How about with input from?
Sorry, say that again?
With input from?
More sense.
Okay.
I don't know what the word is. Good evening, everybody. I
think
apologize
input
for
from is
being
fine.
late.
Input from is fine, doesn't have to be.
Welcome to
Agreed.
the October 23rd Township of Long Hill meeting. We are opening up at 7:37. And I think I'll do it in the proper order this time. Would you read the statement of presiding officer?
In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act of New Jersey, adequate notice of this meeting, specifically the time, date, and public call and information were included in the meeting that was electronically sent to the Echo Sentinel, Morris Daily Record, and posted on the Township website. The agenda and public handouts for this meeting can be viewed online at www.longhillnj.gov. A public comment period will be held in the order is listed on the meeting agenda.
Thank you, Megan. Would everybody please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Megan, please take roll.
Committeeman Dorsey?
Here.
Committeewoman Riker Eline? Here. Committeeman Verleza?
Present.
Deputy Mayor Lavender?
Here.
Mayor Paserchia?
Present. Thank you, Megan. There are no proclamations, presentations this evening, so we're going to go right to item number 5, ordinance. Ordinance 555-24, first reading, introduction. An ordinance establishing the promotion process for the chief of police and supplementing and amending Chapter 2 of the Township Code entitled Administration. Now, this has been a long time in coming. We've had many conversations on it.
Are you gonna
I'm sorry?
read?
Did you send?
Yep.
No, yeah.
All right. All right, so I'm going to make a statement first, and then we'll get into this. There's been a couple of changes to the ordinance in
We have to
conversation
discuss before
with the
introduction.
committee. So before we introduce it, Jack will go over it, but I'll read a statement first. We want to update you on the important work the Township Committee is undertaking regarding the future of the police department. We are committed to ensuring transparency and accountability, and as part of this process, we are actively moving forward with several key initiatives aimed at strengthening and enhancing the department's operations. These efforts include providing greater clarity to the department's organizational structure, career development, improving evaluation and accountability processes, and reviewing the leadership roles. Tonight, we are voting on a promotion ordinance as one of the key steps in advancing these initiatives. Our focus remains on maintaining the safety and well-being of our community while supporting our police force with the resources and clarity they need. We value the public's trust and will continue to keep you informed throughout the process. And that will begin this evening with this ordinance. Jack, I know the public, it was released a proposed ordinance. And I do apologize, this one's on me. I don't know if I gave Randy enough time to work in conjunction with the police department. So in the future, I will make sure that I give enough time rather than rush something onto the agenda. So I apologize to Randy, I apologize to the police department. But that being said, I'll let Jack give you the edits that we agreed to for the ordinance.
Yeah, and these have not been agreed to yet, so let's discuss them. And you
Fair
can make
enough.
any revisions that you think are appropriate. And I'm going specifically to paragraph 8, criteria for selection, which currently reads, all candidates who pass the psychological examination and background check shall submit to a written and oral examination administered by the New Jersey Chiefs of Police Association. The Township Committee will then make a selection based on the results provided by the New Jersey Chiefs of Police Association, utilizing the rule of 3, which means the top 3 candidates would be submitted to the Township Committee. There's been discussion to add the appropriate authority to that process. So here's some language for your consideration, and I know you may want to change it. I would make examinations plural, just as a stylistic thing. And then I would insert there, formulated in consultation with the appropriate authority and administered by the New Jersey Chiefs of Police Association. And I know, Mayor, you had some question about consultation. You wanted a stronger term. I look to the Township Committee for your
What paragraph is that, Jack?
paragraph 8, right before section 2.
Oh, okay.
So the conversation I had with Jack is, maybe it should be involved, I don't know what the word is, but I would like it to be stronger.
Well, everybody was fine with the original language last week, and this is another bait and switch, and I'm voting no on that.
Whatever, introductions of ordinances always involve changes, so, Scott.
No, I think it makes sense. I mean, it seems like it's a miss not to have it in there.
So I don't know what the word should be.
Township committee in collaboration with the appropriate
That was my
authority.
original
Collaboration
suggestion.
instead of consultation?
My original suggestion.
Well,
was-
actually, consultation is better.
All right.
Okay.
Wordsmith, it's your job. Aubrey?
Sorry. Contemplating the right, like, I'm thinking in my head the right words.
Do you want Vic to go first?
Vic can go- Sorry, I was moving it because I kept hitting it with the papers. You want to go next while I'm wordsmithing? You can go next if you want.
I guess the threshold question is, do you want to add the appropriate authority to the process? You know, two of you do and one doesn't. So I think that's the threshold question, and then, you know, refining the language.
So, Jack, with your knowledge of the state statute that outlines the responsibilities of the appropriate authority, the wording of this ordinance as is, does it contradict anything in the state statute with regard to the appropriate authority's role and responsibility?
Before I give you an answer off the top of my head, let me just the state statute says, as used in this section, appropriate authority means the mayor, manager, or such other appropriate executive or administrative officer, such as a full-time director of public safety, or the governing body, I'll skip down because some of these, established by ordinance for such purposes, as shall be provided by ordinance in a manner consistent with the degree of separation of executive and administrative powers from the legislative powers provided for in the charter or form of government, either adopted by the municipality or under which the governing body operates. Now, let me just look at our ordinance. Our ordinance does not specifically list duties of the appropriate authority. It designates the appropriate authority and says, in accordance with NJSA 4814-118, the Township Public Safety Director is hereby designated as the appropriate authority.
Okay. And I think just for clarity, Matt, with all due respect, unanimously, this committee voted for the responsibilities and the authority of the Public Safety Director multiple times. And by Township Committee, that did not include Committeewoman Reichert Eline. She was not here, and Committeeman Ray at the time was conflicted, so he could not vote on it. So this committee multiple times voted on exactly what the role would be of the Public Safety Director. Admittedly, that has evolved because of the input that we have received and that we have worked collaboratively with the prosecutor's office. His interpretation of the law is a little different than perhaps what we viewed initially. So we've tried to amend the ordinance as we've gone along. So 6 months ago, the way the ordinance looked 6 months ago is not the way it's going to look going forward. But the only reason for that is we were trying to tweak it a bit. But it's important to recognize the public. It was unanimously voted on by Committeeman Dorsey, Deputy Mayor Lavender, Committeeman Vic Veleza, and me. And at the time last year, Matt, you were mayor. No, Scott, you were mayor. So this has been an evolution So I don't think it's unusual that we're still trying to tweak this as we go along. So the words bait and switch, I think, are a little bit misleading.
It's different than it was when I read it on.
Mike,
It's different than when we voted on it 6 months ago.
No,
Matt.
no, it's different than we all agreed upon on last Wednesday when I was stuck here for another 3.5 hours or
All
4
right,
hours.
whatever. Vic or Aubrey, your turn.
I'm with Matt. The way it's not the way we agreed to in that, in that 3.5 hour action-packed committee.
It's not an ordinance back there. It's an ordinance out here.
Yes, but I'm a no.
And the reason?
As I just stated, we said one thing in the last meeting, and I feel as if it's been, in that 3.5 hour action-packed committee meeting back there, and then now it appears. as if
Honestly,
it's
you have to give
changed.
me, I'm asking you for more substance. Why would we not include the appropriate authority in this ordinance? What's the reason?
Ultimately, the decision comes down to the town committee, correct?
Yes.
Correct. Well, utilizing the rule of three.
Yeah.
So
Correct.
you
Then
would
I say
get
we
the top
keep it
three
that way,
candidates.
because that takes the personal things out of it. That would be
But the involvement is the appropriate authority working with the
We don't
police
need
chiefs
to. We get
association.
results from the Chiefs of Police Association, an oral test, a written test. It's very objective. There's no playing favorites. They don't know anybody there.
But we're still gonna end up with 3.
Of course.
And in theory, the appropriate authority would still weigh in because we'd have contact throughout the process.
All right, so this is first reading. I'm looking for a motion.
as is.
Well, we have to, Jack added another change based on something Jonathan said, which is statutory. So that'll be in there,
That's
correct?
this,
Is that a
Right.
bait and switch too?
No, that's a statutory thing. That's,
Oh, it's referencing the statutes. I don't have.
no, but my
Wait,
other,
is that
Yeah.
what you're talking about?
yeah, it's from Title 40 or something,
When
correct,
two or
Jack?
more candidates are ranked
Oh, wait, he
equally
gave one.
pursuant to the.
He sent us an email tonight. Let me get that.
Can I ask a question? Going back to what Aubrey just said, Jack. If the appropriate authority is not mentioned in here, and with the reasonable assumption that the township committee, in making its decision, would seek advice from the appropriate authority, is there anything in here which would legally prevent that from happening?
No, and in fact, I suspect the Chiefs Association would consult with the
Fair
appropriate
enough.
authority.
Okay, then I'm in
formulating.
agreement with Matt and Vic.
Now, here's
You're
what.
off my holiday card list right now.
Here's what Jonathan suggested in an email we received this evening, and he was here earlier, to add to the selection criteria, where 2 or more candidates are ranked equally pursuant to the promotional procedure set forth herein, preference shall be given to the candidate with the most seniority in service pursuant to NJSA 48:14-129, or a resident over a non-resident pursuant to NJSA 48:14-122.6. Seniority shall prevail over residency in the case of candidates that are ranked equally. Both of those provisions would be in effect in any event, but in discussing this, the attached committee felt it would be better to put it in the code so people were aware of it. So if you're agreeable to that, then the ordinance as introduced tonight will have that additional language.
fine.
You don't
All
have to
right,
take
so
any.
as amended,
Well, I have another question,
You don't
too.
have to amend it, we're revising it, so on introduction, it will include that.
Now, my other question is, I don't know, we have enough officers here who can answer the question. I don't know if for somebody to get promoted to sergeant, what's the minimum time on to be eligible to be a sergeant?
3 years.
3 years, okay, so in theory, I could start today, I could be a sergeant in 3 years, and then if I do well in the chief sets, I could be a chief in 6 years. Which is, then you're stuck with this person now for 22, 24 years, because what do you have to be, 30 years now to get 65% in benefits?
25.
Is it 25 or is it 30 now?
25.
Okay, well, 25, but then in theory, we could, in theory, I'm not saying it's happening now, but have somebody that's 6 years on duty to be the chief of police, which is probably not the best idea
Yeah,
anywhere.
is that really enough time?
No, that's my point.
I agree.
So maybe if we add a minimum time as a police officer in general, like X amount of years law enforcement experience, because otherwise, like I said, 6 years,
Well, it's, yeah,
let me ask you a question.
Yes.
Well, to be fair, I probably should.
You can ask them
The
too.
officer in charge, if you don't mind. on average, what has been the process, and maybe it's not something we should be discussing in public, for when an officer is hired to when they are in fact a sergeant?
Well,
Are there any criteria for that level?
It used to be 5 years. It was
Mike.
switched.
Sorry.
I'm sorry for
So
putting you on the
everyone can
spot, and this is not personnel. We can have
No,
this
no, this is a
conversation.
general policy.
No, this is policy, it's not
So for the
personnel.
public to understand, my question to Officer in Charge Chambriello is, what's the timeline minimum for an officer who is hired to become sergeant? And if there are any other specific qualifications that are required?
Okay.
No,
To be eligible or to become sergeant, because that's.
To be
two
eligible.
totally
Eligible is 3 years, that's
thank
it.
you. To be eligible, I think is the right question,
Yes.
right? Is that what you're getting at?
Eligible was 5 years, but when the pool shrank to not having that many people available, it was lowered to 3 years.
Okay.
And then you have to have your bachelor's degree
Okay.
to be eligible to
Thank
put in
you.
for it. Okay.
Can I ask you, I want to ask a question, because I think that 6 years would be, not enough time to be ready to become a chief. Would you be in agreement with that for the most part, or am I wrong? Do you think that in many situations, 6 years might be, a candidate may be ready to become chief? Or does that seem a little short to you?
So there's a variety of things that go into that, because some people end up with detective bureau experience, some people don't have that. Then you don't have the ability to know what goes on in the detective bureau and is, in essence, be in charge of the department and know the detective bureau. There's things that you might, there's things that impact your experience overall to lend towards being a better chief, possibly.
So in general, 6 years, you would agree would be a little short?
It may be.
Okay.
It may be. That requires a lot more training and, experience-wise, I don't know what when you look at other towns, what their criteria is for becoming a chief.
And thank you very much for that
Yes.
response. I think, to be fair, the ordinance that we're discussing, which would involve the State Police Chiefs Association, that probably kind of mitigates our concern.
Well, no, it'd make them eligible. This would even eliminate
Right.
those people right off the bat.
No, I understand that, but frankly, if that's the person that, through this gauntlet that we're discussing tonight, is the right person, then they're the right person.
I would think at least.
Microphone.
Well, I would say at least 10 years law enforcement experience. I mean, let's say they came to a different department and came and they had 6 years here, okay, but they might have had 10 years at the sheriff's department or 10 years at the prosecutor's. I don't know.
But remember, that's not the township committee, you're involving the Chiefs Association.
Well, I know that. No, I'm just saying is that's who's eligible. Once they're eligible, then as soon as you're eligible, anybody can take the test. And if they ace the test, great. But I just don't think somebody with 6 years of law enforcement experience is ready to run an agency, even if it had 3 members.
I don't know.
Again, at
We can
first
always
blush, it
revisit
feels a
this.
little short, but I'm not, law enforcement isn't my specialty, so that's why I'm asking.
Yeah, and that's a great point, Vic, and Director
about maybe
Peoples is here.
Director-
Maybe Mike can come up and help as well.
Good evening. So what's the exact question again?
Is 6 years enough time to run an agency?
To become
Is 6
chief.
years enough time to be the head of an agency, basically?
To Lieutenant Chambrello's point, I think it all depends on what the skills, knowledge, and abilities are of that particular candidate.
So are you saying that you believe in certain instances, there may be an exceptional individual that would be ready to be chief in 6 years, and 6 years it would be a okay criteria, leave it as it is?
They're not going to become a sergeant in 3 years.
Well, currently, the ordinance states, since I didn't have an opportunity to review it here, the ordinance states how many years?
In other words, because our concern is we feel as if 6 years may be an insufficient amount of time to be ready to become chief, and this is where you guys know far better than we do.
So it looks like the ordinance states 3 years as a sergeant.
Yes.
Correct.
Right. Well, initially, our policy was 5 years to be a sergeant, and because of the pool of candidates was reduced, we reduced the candidate to be eligible as sergeant to 3 years. So it seems to me if there were 5 years was the cutoff for a sergeant up until a few years ago, it should be at least 5 years for a commanding officer position.
So that would be 10 years of total service?
No, 5 years.
No.
Well, it would be,
Be 8,
well, you would have to be a sergeant for 5 years.
right.
And how long would you have to be an officer?
3
Well,
years.
I mean, we've never,
3 years.
3 years to be eligible, but,
3 years eligible
but,
for
but most sergeants aren't going to be appointed or promoted to sergeant on the anniversary,
No, true,
on
but
the third
that-
anniversary, so
It's an
they're,
extreme example, but it is a possibility.
but the minimum threshold that you're
All right.
saying that is 8 years. 3 years
so
as
5
an
years?
Thank you.
officer, 5 as a sergeant.
I
That's
think,
right.
I think Director Peoples understands the question, so maybe he can respond.
you said 5.
the way I interpreted the ordinance reading it here is that the sergeant, any sergeant would be eligible as long as they served 3 years as a sergeant.
That's right.
Not,
correct.
not an officer who's on 3 years, because you have it that it's, the eligibility requirements are lieutenant and sergeants.
Yep. Worst case, it would be 6 years, the way it's written by
That's-
Jonathan.
That's correct. So what I'm suggesting, if it's 3 years for an officer to become sergeant, then it should be 5 years
As a sergeant.
as a sergeant. Well, you can consider 5 years.
So timeline, to your point, Matt, becomes 8, but I.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I still want more, but 6 years is way too short.
Fair enough. And you prefer 10,
Yeah,
8,
I mean-
8 is,
Right.
and I'll defer to Officer in Charge Tiambrello and Director Peoples. That seems to be where we're settling on. That seems reasonable. I hear what you're saying, Matt.
Yeah, no, I understand.
You know, and if there's the pool is too small at some point in the future, like
We can
anything else,
revisit the
same
ordinance.
way the sergeant criteria was changed.
That sound reasonable, Director?
Can you repeat what the line
I'm
of
saying
thinking
if
is
in
now?
the future the pool was too small as a result of that requirement, the township committee could change it.
Okay, so what are you looking at for the eligibility requirements now?
No, they're talking about changing it to 5 years, as you
Yeah, as you
suggested.
suggested.
But I'm saying that if in the future 5 years was made the pool too small, they could always revisit it.
Okay. Your decision.
They always have that option, that's all I'm saying.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director. And thank you, Officer in Charge.
So can we
Okay.
make that change?
So you can introduce the ordinance tonight, if you wish, changing the criteria from a minimum of 3 years as a sergeant to a minimum of 5 years as a sergeant, with the result that it would be 8 years as an officer, police officer.
Yep. And just a quick question, this verbiage though, and I'm sorry, I don't remember, and I can look at my notes. This was taken though from standard operating verbiage, procedures. It's not like we made it
It was
up.
drafted by Labor Council.
Right, but
based on his experience.
And based on what we saw
Correct,
in the other, just clarifying that.
correct.
So Jack, I want to circle back to number 8 again.
Yes.
Is there anything that precludes the township committee from consulting beyond the appropriate authority, to say like the administrator?
As a non-civil service town, you have a great deal of discretion. You could certainly do that.
And so does it make sense to have a number 9 that says something to the effect of, nothing shall preclude the township committee from consulting with additional individuals as long as they meet the following criteria, et cetera, such as township administrator, appropriate authority, public safety director?
Well, I think you have that implied authority to consult with anyone in making your decisions.
We can do that any hiring.
No, I know. We've talked about things before in terms of making them more specific.
Right, maybe we could make that, we'll make a
Explicit.
selection in consultation with the township administrator and the appropriate authority based on the results provided by the,
Right. Because I acknowledge Aubrey's point. Ultimately, we do have the final say on this, but we don't want to leave anything off the table.
I mean, if the township committee would like to add that language, there's certainly nothing improper about it.
I would say, yeah, like we could add the in consultation if needed. Like, it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be required, but if
Right.
needed.
I don't see why we need it, because you can
Yeah,
consult
I mean,
with
I don't-
anybody on anything.
Then don't worry
All right, Guy, Vic, Matt?
So is there consensus on the township committee to make that last sentence read, "The township committee, in consultation with the township administrator and the appropriate authority, if needed, will then make a selection based on the results provided by the New Jersey Chiefs of Police Association, utilizing the rule of three"?
Yeah.
I don't think we need to put it in writing, because you're gonna consult, we're gonna consult with, as Jack said. We can kind of ask anybody we want, for that matter. So I vote no.
Scott?
I think it's fine. I think it adds clarity.
Vic?
I'm good.
Aubrey?
You're good saying, like, add it in with the as
With-
needed.
as we-
As
yes.
needed. Yeah.
Okay, so the ordinance then will, the changes from the published version that you're introducing tonight, in paragraph 1, the sergeant's minimum eligibility will be changed from 3 to 5 years. Paragraph 8, the last sentence will read, "The township committee, in consultation with the administrator, township administrator, and the appropriate authority, comma, if needed, comma, will then make a selection based on the results provided by the New Jersey Chiefs of Police Association, utilizing the rule of three," and it will also have the language incorporated in the two state statutes that I read from Jonathan's email earlier.
I was
Jonathan
think-
is the labor counsel for those who.
For the
Yes.
specifics in terms of township administrator and township appropriate authority and all that, I would say one of the versions that we said here didn't have that in there, would consult with other parties as needed, or is that too generic?
Well, you
It's
voted
scary.
down the earlier,
Well, we haven't voted yet, so.
well,
So
you
what
can add it if you
specifically
wish.
is your question,
Like,
Aubrey?
I would say just neutralize it, that we can consult with other parties if needed, as needed, like keeping it a little bit more generic.
Since you brought it up, I would, just to be clear, I still think that should say the appropriate authority, whoever that appropriate authority is at that time. That's my preference, but I think I lost that.
Back to the original, right, well, that's what I'm saying, like, by adding this back in, we're back to what we voted no
well,
on
you're
just
changing it
before.
to the earlier one was the formulation of the questions to
But to be fair,
making
I
the final
think,
decision.
Scott, you were fine with removing appropriate authority too, I thought?
Right,
Yeah,
but we
all
just
I-
voted,
all-
we just put
Yeah.
it back in, so
Oh,
like.
well,
But, yeah, but it's a different
All- all I
sentence
was-
that we're
all I
talking
would-
about. The other one was formulate
Yeah.
the written and oral examinations in consultation. This one is the township committee will make its selection in consultation.
At their discretion, or whatever you said. You
Right.
qualified it, so.
If
it-
needed was,
Right.
was
Yeah,
Aubrey's language,
yeah,
was fine.
Yeah, or whatever the legal way of saying that is.
I think if you want to consult with other people, you certainly can, but I think if we just put town in consultation with the administrator and the appropriate
I think it
authority.
makes a lot of sense, because it covers the two roles in between the department and the committee.
And the committee.
It covers the whole chain. And then, but it also
And
leaves
what is
open.
that change, so we're clear?
The chain is committee, administrator, appropriate authority, department. Right.
Is that the consensus?
Yeah.
It appears so, and I know, I'm good at math, four beats one, so.
I don't know, I just think it does, it's the same thing as the other one, just in a different spot.
Right. Well, it's a different role.
No, it's loosened up a little bit.
Yeah, it's a different role. It's making the final selection. You're consulting with the appropriate authority and the administrator.
As
As opposed
needed.
to the chiefs consulting with them for the written
Process.
and oral examination.
Yeah.
Okay, now, I mean, Aubrey, if you've got a concern. please.
Yeah, I just think it's the same thing, but a little different.
It's at a different point in the
I
process.
know it's at a different point in the process, but it's the same thing, like
So if we
It's the
define,
same
if we
chain.
define what's different is the conditional that's added.
right, like if we're saying, okay, not for the examination, but then we are saying for the final decision, I get it, and I also think it's what we kind of said before in a different spot.
No, it's not. It's not, because what we're saying here, as needed, which puts it at the discretion of the township committee. Whereas before, the way it read, it looked like there wasn't that
I
condition.
bet if we change if needed to the township committee in its discretion.
Yeah, same thing. As needed or in its discretion.
And
like-
understand, the fact that it's in a different part of the process is significantly different, because the process to come up with the rule of three, those three names, there are more names involved in that initial process, so it is different.
Ish.
Well, by the time it reaches us, it's
You're down to
it's a
3.
different number. And to be fair, part of the things we're trying to address is this committee is not qualified to look at
Which is why
what
we
goes
neutralized,
into.
which is why we
100%.
neutralized the process and brought it
Fair enough.
into a standard operating procedure that's pretty
Fair enough.
normal across police
Yes,
departments.
and rule of 3 is a civil service.
Correct. No, well, that's why
That's where
we
that's taken
pushed to
from.
have it in there to
Yes.
neutralize it 100%. 100%.
So,
Okay, I prefer, I like the discretion language in there.
So if, let me read it now. Criteria for selection, all candidates who pass the psychological examination and background check shall submit to a written, I think it should be written and oral examinations, administered by the New Jersey Chiefs of Police Association. The Township Committee, in its sole discretion, or will, in consultation with the appropriate authority in the Township Administrator, in its sole discretion, will then make a selection based on the results provided by the Chiefs Association, utilizing the rule of 3, and then we've added the statutory language as suggested by Labor Council.
All right, just a timing question. Do we get the rule of 3 before the consultation takes place?
No.
Or we get the 3 and then we?
You'll get the 3, and your selection process will be in consultation with the
Okay, if
Administrator
needed.
and the appropriate
If
authority.
needed,
If
like
needed.
not mandated.
In your
if
discretion.
needed.
Okay, fine, all right. Thank you, Jack.
All right.
So if that's the case, that's the way you don't need to take any vote because it's being introduced with that language. We're not amending it. It's never been introduced.
And I think it's a fair question to ask. In years past, when a police chief in Long Hill Township was chosen, it was done similarly, where it went to the Township Committee, and the Township Committee,
Made the final selection, that's
Correct.
correct. It was more informal, for lack
did
of
it
a better term.
involve? Yeah, it did. I'm thinking back on it. But I get your point. It was in consultation as at the discretion of the Township Committee.
Right. I mean,
so it really
yeah.
hasn't changed, Aubrey, that final leg of the process.
Yeah, I mean, you're the ultimate decision makers.
Fair enough. But with expert input from, in this case, we've added the Police Chiefs Association.
Yeah, if you
to it.
feel it's needed, exactly.
Fair enough.
You ready for a motion?
I am.
I'll make a motion that we make the changes that Jack has led us through, which include the 5-year stipulation on being a sergeant, the changes as explained for number 8, having to do with the Township Committee's discretion, as well as the statutory additions to number 8. Did I get them all?
That's it.
Okay, that's my motion.
Looking for a second. Vic, Aubrey?
Second.
And before you say anything, Aubrey, keep in mind, this is first reading. Things can change between now and second reading and passage, and even when an ordinance is passed, it can be amended if for whatever reason we left something out or something needs to be added. These are not the 10 Commandments. so.
And there will be a public hearing on second reading.
Thank you.
Okay. We're still waiting for you to,
Oh, vote? I have to.
No, Vic hasn't.
Committeeman
Oh, he makes
Dorsey?
it?
No, we haven't.
Right,
voted.
have
I was
oh,
like,
Vic
wait,
made a second? Who
Yeah,
made the
Vic did.
second?
No, Vic did.
Vic
Vic
seconded.
did. I apologize. I did. Sorry,
It's
Vic,
like,
I
wait.
cut you off.
Yes, to move on to second reading, yes.
Now a roll call vote.
So Committeeman Dorsey's a yes. Committeewoman Riker Line?
yep.
Committeeman
Yes.
Verleza?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Lavender?
Yes.
Mayor Paserchia?
Yes, thank you very much. And what it will be
Second reading November 6th.
November 6th. Thank you, Megan. All right, next up, ordinance 55624, first reading, introduction amending salaries and wages ordinance. Randy, I think this is your gig.
Yeah, this is amending a couple titles within the township, mostly on the maximum side, but in one case on the minimum side also, to hopefully cover the next couple years of salary increases. Actually, I stand corrected, there were 2 minimums that were changed. And this would be, this sets the ranges, it does not set the actual salaries.
Thank you.
It's pretty straightforward. We do this quite often when we have to make
Certainly.
some adjustments.
Certainly.
Okay, any questions for Randy or comments for Randy?
Yeah, I have one. So Randy, these are market-driven changes?
For the most part, yes.
And can you explain to the public the process that you went through to determine these?
Well, we do salary surveys every once in a while with other towns. I accumulated various towns and what they're paying each of the titles, along with other information, and we take the rule of throwing out the lowest and highest, come up with an average, and see how we fare based on years of experience and performance of those individuals.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments for Randy? And to be clear, and to follow up on what Scott said, Randy kindly did that survey this round at the direction of the Township Committee, so we do appreciate you doing so. Now, I guess I would look for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Committeeman Dorsey?
Yes.
Committeewoman Riker Align?
Yes.
Committeeman Verleza?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Lavender?
Yes.
Mayor Paserchia?
Yes, thank you, Megan. All right, so item number 6, I believe it's item number 6, right?
Yep.
All right, item number 6, consent agenda resolutions. Any resolution that a member of the Township Committee would like to pull for further discussion or is conflicted out? Hearing none, I'll look for a motion to approve resolutions numbers 24 through 265, 24, 271.
So moved.
Second.
Committeeman Dorsey?
Yes.
Committeewoman Riker Align?
Yes.
Committeeman Verleza?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Lavender?
Yes.
Mayor Paserchia?
Yes. Committee reports, Vic.
All right. I got a book here.
Don't forget to mention the Yankees.
All right. The recreation report for October 23rd is as follows. We have slide 1. This has been an amazing month up in the sky. Many thanks to Ed Zindel of Myersville for sharing this photo of the harvest moon with us. This weekend was our annual Halloween parade, and Mother Nature could not have been kinder. We had a great crowd, and we also had so many people to thank. Thank you to the Long Hill Chamber of Commerce businesses. Thank you for making the event extra special and coming out to spend the afternoon with us. The following businesses were in attendance: Gary Giannakis and Weichert Realtors, Little People's Playhouse, Sweet Passion Cakery, Millington Volunteer Fire Company, Starstruck Dance Studio, Long Hill Auto Service, Long Hill Education Foundation, Burton Company Barbershop, Globo Balloons and More, I Teach Speaking, the Goddard School of Long Hill Township Library, Misty D Photography. Thank you so much for working with Mary Meyer and Gary Giannakis to set up the photo booth this year. This was a great idea, and lots of family photos were taken with a fall background. Finally, thank you to Hillview Farms for donating all the pumpkins, corn stalks, and hay bales. All families that attended went home with pumpkins. A special thanks to our judges, Mayor Guy Paserchia, Committeeman Matt Dorsey, Victoria and Gianna Verleza, Vicky Belkowicz from the Chamber of Commerce, Ed Gorecht from the Millington Fire Department, Al Gallo from the Sterling Fire Department, Sergeant John Roberts from the Long Hill Police Department, Officer Declan Ray from the Long Hill Police Department, and Officer Dolores Lagenbach from the Long Hill Police Department. And finally, last but certainly not least, Captain Bob English of the Long Hill First Aid Squad. Thank you also to Albie Ashbrook for jumping into our witch. Wait, hold on, let me do that again. Thank you. Thank you to Albie Ashbrook for jumping in to be our witch. Just about the nicest witch you'll ever meet. She led the kids into the parade and guided them so that they could put their best foot forward during the judging.
Thank you to Girl Scouts of the Senior Troop 96291 for coming in ahead of the parade and stuffing all 500 goodie bags for us. Thank you to the Girl Scouts Cadet Troop 7731 for coming to the parade and helping to pass out goodie bags on the field and help with the refreshments. Thank you to Karen Nyquist for coming out and helping on the refreshments. Thank you to LMB Audio Services, Larry Pazinski and Ernie Lettieri for providing the sound at the event, and to the Long Hill TV for coming out and taping the event for Long Hill Television. Finally, thank you to our wonderful Recreation Advisory Committee for all of their help to set up the event. We can't do these events without you. Special thank you to Charles Arentowitz for the beautiful pictures from the day. We will be sharing these photos on the website soon. And we will also have a link to the Long Hill Township video. Thursday night adult basketball started last week and continues until the beginning of May. There's still time to register to get together with your neighbors and for some recreational play. Saturday recreational basketball program registration is open now until November 1st. Please go on to Community Pass to register. And tonight we are finishing up with the tryouts for the travel basketball teams. Practices will begin next week and games start the first week of December. With all the magical skies of late, we are happy to announce our next photography contest, A Look at the Sky. Entry is free for Long Hill residents, and the contest runs through January 15th. More information is available at our website. This Saturday, the Long Hill First Aid Squad will host their annual Trunk or Treat event in the Town Hall parking lot. With over 20 decorated trunks, this event promises to be a lot of fun. Come with your costume and come with your costume on and your sweet tooth to be satisfied. Saturday, 10/26 from 1:30 p.m. till 3:30 p.m.
Who else is gonna be there?
I think we're going to be there.
We are gonna be there.
We'll see you there. All right, moving on to slide number 7. Just an update. After our pre-last meeting to help controlling the garbage and equipment issues in the park, at our recreational meeting on 10/15, we discussed this issue again. We did see a noticeable difference since our initial emails in trying to address this problem. We agreed to table the topic and keep watching the issues. We will talk about it again at our next meeting in November. Oscar the Grouch was pleased with the progress. All right, we are concerned with the amount of kids riding their bicycles and electric scooters in the parking lots and scooting back and forth between the park to the Valley Mall businesses. All right, so let me rephrase that. Scooting back and forth from the park to the Valley Hall businesses. We are worried that there is going to be a collision in the parking lots as the kids are darting in and out, not realizing the dangers. The Parks and Recreation Department has asked the Police Department for help with this in providing some education and direction. Officer in charge, Lieutenant Chamberillo, provided the following slide, which delineates the laws for wearing helmets. Something that I am not sure everyone is aware of. On the low-speed electric scooters and on the low-speed electric bicycles, anyone under the age of 17 is required to wear a helmet. On motorized bicycles, everyone is required to wear a helmet. Finally, the Recreational Advisory Committee is always looking for more members. When we run our events especially, we are always in need of lots of hands. If you're interested in having some fun with us, please contact us and we will get you on the path. All right. And that concludes my lengthy recreational update. Thank you, everybody.
Committeeman Veleza, that was outstanding. Committee woman, back at Eline, you have a tough act to follow.
Right?
Batter up.
I must have
Accept the
stuttered 6 times there. I didn't do that.
Alright.
I didn't do that
We
well.
got luck. All right, library update. Let's go. The Long Hill Township Library is open 7 days a week, including 1 to 5 on Sunday. That's exciting. Next slide, perfect, thank you. The library's weekly schedules of programs and events. There's one for kids and there is one for adults as well on the website. So exciting, there's lots of good stuff going on. Library offers daily programs for children, story times in the morning, and crafts and science projects in the afternoon. This week, we have an art class for adults on Thursday. Make a gift bag out of recycled paper. Exciting, lots of options. All right, slide 5. Also on Thursday, an evening talk by the art historian Jay Shuck, all about the art of Leonardo da Vinci via Zoom. Call the library to register. That's exciting. We have a guitar concert this Sunday. The entire community is welcome to enjoy the music and use the library this Sunday. Yay, it's from 3 to 4 p.m. The Friends of the Library are hosting 2 fundraising events for us, a holiday market with local artisans selling arts and crafts and a Shred It event. The holiday market will run from Friday, November 8th to Sunday, November 10th, and the Shred It event will be on Saturday, November 9th in the parking lot. So both are exciting. Check the website always because it's always being updated with new things.
That was it?
That was it, sorry.
That was quick.
Right?
And,
That's what I got.
and kidding aside, I want to thank you because the library is such an integral part of this community, and we really weren't giving these updates, and I appreciate you reaching out, and a real shout out to the library director, Albie, who has done an unbelievable job in the time. I think she's been here about a year, give or take, some.
Good stuff.
But anyway, just outstanding, so thank you. Matt?
First, please keep recycling. It was nice to see. We had a bunch of new towns join our styrofoam recycling program. So that's good to see that people are embracing it in other towns. What? What's the difference? They're renewing it. They're still doing it. Who cares? That means it's working. Thank you, Megan, for interrupting my hearing. Next, from the Board of Health, COVID booster clinics. Check the Bernard's Health website for your updates. Next, they will be doing a Sugar Savvy program the 14th from 6 to 7 at Bernard's Library. They're doing a live cooking demo with samples, so if you can't get down to Costco, come over here, 6 to 7 on the 14th at Bernard's Library. Next, the fire department, this Saturday, the first ever Halloween costume party, 7:30, $30 up front, $35 at the door. For those of you who are still standing after the Halloween party, we'll be having a meet and greet the new fire truck at the Sterling Hotel on Sunday from 1 to 4, Sunday afternoon at the hotel in the beer garden. It's open to all the members of the community. Come down, meet the firemen, discuss the programs they have. The kids are free to get on the truck, take some pictures. Of course, they'll have a live band at the same time, Lily's Closet, and they're starting going on at 2 o'clock. So from 1 to 4, come down and meet the firemen and women, as well as meet the new truck. Is that my announcement?
Yep.
Oh. And from, what's this, the Watchung Municipal Alliance, whose purpose is to support local communities, events. They just did a 5K in Watchung a couple weeks ago. They do the project graduation. They are previewing or viewing a movie on October 28th at 7 p.m. The website's there. It's called The Upstanders. I believe it's about bullying and resilience, so take a look if you're interested in those topics. Thank you. Oh, and the fire department, for both fire departments, 272 calls to date. That's almost one or maybe even more than one a day. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for answering all those calls. It's very active.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, sir.
Scott?
Yeah, okay, just this. You may have noticed that in Resolution 24268, we accepted the resignation of Frank Riley from the Historic Preservation Advisory Committee. Frank was greatly loved, is greatly loved by the HPAC committee. They're sorry to see him go, but we just want to forward out our respect and thanks to Frank for all the work that he's done on HPAC and to take care. That's it.
Thank you, Scott. Let's have the administrator report.
I have the Public Works monthly report for October 2024. Public Works did a removal and pruning of many trees while also planting 9 trees for the challenge grant. To Committeeman Dorsey's report. They did 5 days of styrofoam processing. They had fall flowers planting on Main, Cantor, and Town Hall. They did townwide street sweeping that produced 62 tons of sweeping collections that were transported to the recycling center, Morris County Recycling Center. They did various stump grinding where the dead trees were removed, and as always, mowing along township roads, township-owned properties. They did crack sealing of township roads and catch basin repairs. Couple announcements, fall DPW hours for Saturdays are 8 a.m. until 1 p.m. till December 7th. The Public Works is in need of used motor oil, so if you're changing your oil, keep the Public Works in mind. Please do not put any water in with the used oil, but they use it for recycling and heating in one of the garages. They also want to remind you of the food compost drop-off at DPW, and one of their newer recycling is K-Cup Recycling at the DPW in the lobby. Pardon me. The police report for September 2024, they had calls for service 1,996 for a total year-to-date of 18,626. There were approximately 12 to 15 motor vehicle accidents during the month. We had added couple days of training. We had let me see, 14 more days of training in September for various subject matters. And we named a new humane law enforcement officer, also called we refer to it as HELO, but it's HLEO. Officer Joe Napolitano. Is he here tonight? He was here before. I thought he was here tonight. So congratulations on that. He deals with all kinds of humane laws, animal humane laws. We have, we're in the process of hiring several new officers and going through that process, and probably we'll have them on towards the end of the year or beginning of 2025. And that's all I have, Mayor, right now.
Thank you, Randy, I appreciate it. So now, item number 9, discussion, parking permits. It seems we do this every year, Megan.
We do.
Well, there you go. Are you going to give us the update of where we are and what we might be considering, or are you going to, you give me a dirty look, so I should probably know this myself?
No, for some reason, my computer's not connecting with my desktop over there. So I had the yearly parking permits versus the daily parking permits, but I don't have that information on my hand now.
All right, so what are we considering? The possibility of keeping them the same? Or
Yeah,
just-
so we are allowed to sell, I believe it's 140, it's in the resolution. 150 parking permits for Millington, 65 for Sterling, and 140 for Gillette. We did not sell out within the last 4 years since COVID. We have been amping up a lot with our daily parking permits, and you guys have allowed Park Mobile to come in. We should be getting that up and running by the end of this year. And we'd be able to take some of the yearly parking passes that we don't sell and use them with Park Mobile.
So Park Mobile will only be at Millington?
It'll be at all three.
Will
We're
it
getting
really?
rid of the standalone machine at Millington. It will be in all 3 locations.
Excellent. I used Park Mobile the last few days, and I'll use it again tomorrow morning. Works wonderfully.
There you go.
So I mean, the idea is that, do we have any reason to change the rates, or we're comfortable with what they are?
I would
Maybe
say
that
so.
would be more for the township committee. Has anything changed in the last year where we need?
Approve that today.
Okay, there you go.
Millington 240, Sterling 290, Gillette 340, and then there's a half year, $5 daily.
All right, so I'll read them out a little, so, thank Randy, by the way. So the Millington Train Station yearly is $240, after July 1, $120. Sterling is $290, after July 1, $145. Gillette's station is $340, and after July 1, $170. The daily parking is $5 currently, and proposed is to keep it at $5, even when Park Mobile comes in. Park Mobile, correct me if I'm wrong, there's no charge, they come in.
For the.
For the town, we don't pay
Correct.
them.
Correct. We don't pay them anything. There is an 85 cents convenience fee for the credit cards, but they will be saving because right now they're paying a $3 convenience fee using SDL.
What the heck, I did not know that.
If they come in and pay in person, then
For the,
there's no.
even for the daily?
For the daily, if they come in and pay at the clerk's office, then it's just $5, but if they use the app,
Remind me, can you buy the daily in advance? It has to be day of.
you have to buy it in advance because we have to approve it on our end, send an email to the police officer, so it was.
And is it
kind of-
just, okay, when you do that, can you do it for 2 weeks from today? Right,
Yes.
so in Chatham, unless they changed it, the inconvenience there is they don't sell them until, but they do sell out, right, until like 10 or 11 in the morning, so which point it doesn't really helpful. So Long Hill is much more responsive to the needs of its community, at least as regards parking. Any questions, comments?
Yeah, so just to be clear, so no change from 2024? So we're keeping commuter costs flat year to year?
Yes, and all of the costs that we collect with this have to be invested back into the parking lots of the train
Correct.
stations.
And this Park Mobile, this changes the process for doing daily,
Correct,
and it's easier now?
correct.
Will be.
It will be
Okay.
easier?
Will be.
Okay, all right. So there's all goodness in here.
I try.
So there's no surprise there'll be like a zip code for what that is. You plug it in.
Yep, mhm.
You can have your credit card on duty, or online. You click, done. It takes
And the
10
Park,
seconds.
with Park Mobile, like if you decide you want to go travel into the city right now and leave in an hour, can you get a space that way?
Yes, yeah, so you'd go to the train station and you can put in the code that they have prior to showing up and seeing how many available spots there are. We'll go with supply and demand based off of how many yearly parking passes we have. And then you could just go to the train station, put it
So-
in.
So it's much easier because you don't have to wait for all this.
Correct. You wouldn't have to wait for us to accept it and then us to send the payment request and then,
Okay, so it's same price as 2024, and it's far easier for the daily commuters. What's not to like? Can I make a motion to do this resolution?
I second it.
Bingo.
And Megan, you have to take a voice vote, right?
yep.
Okay.
Committeeman Dorsey?
Yes.
Committeewoman Riker-Eline?
Yes.
Committeeman Veleza?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Lavender?
Yes.
Mayor Paserchia?
Yes, and Megan, thank you for the work you did on this. Okay, old, new, business.
Legal fees. Employees should not be calling township lawyers. If you have a legal issue, call your own lawyer. They should, this is getting out of hand. If there's an issue, they can hire a lawyer or call somebody else, but employees should not be directly contacting the township legal representatives. They don't represent me, they don't represent Megan, they don't represent Randy, they represent the town, not individual people. So there's gotta be some procedure in place. I want refunds paid or something, because this is getting ridiculous.
Thank you. Anybody else?
That goes for us too, meaning us committee members too. We shouldn't be just running up bills, running the lawyer every time they have a stupid question. I love when clients call me. It's great. It's found money. But sometimes we don't need to, and a lot of times it's just, I don't know what's going on, but I see these bills and they're crazy, and it's got to stop. Thank you.
Scott? Anybody?
Good.
Is there official messaging or procedure or protocol or verbiage that we should
You can
issue
contact Randy.
to reiterate? Yeah.
Contact Randy.
Everybody should be going through the administration.
Yep.
Okay.
All righty. So announcements, I know we've already said several of these, but let's do it again.
Except the mayor.
The Long Hill First Aid Squad Trunk or Treat, October 26, 1:30 to 3:30 p.m., right here in the lot behind us. And as Vic mentioned, due to encouragement from Committeewoman Reichen Eline, gently, when she threatened us, we will be there as a Township Committee. We will have a trunk with lots of chocolate. Sterling Fire Company, Halloween Party, October 26, 7:30, as Matt already mentioned. There is a fee, what was it again, Matt? $30 in advance?
$35 at the door.
35 at the door, thank you. Sterling Fire Company Meet and Greet, October 27th, on Sunday, 1 to 4 p.m. I think, was that at the hotel? And I think the Township Committee, at least several of us will in fact be there. The Friends of the Library Shred It Day, November 9th, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. That is a fundraiser for the library. The Friends of the Library do remarkable work, so please go into your basement, find all the papers that you have accumulated over, well, in my case, over the last 25 years, and bring them there and shred them. Okay, item number 12, meeting open to the public, remarks and statements pertaining to any matter. If you could, out of respect for your residents who are with you, comments and remarks, please try to limit them to 3 minutes. No,
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Frank Liberato,
Frank.
Heritage Road, Millington. Just a couple of quick points tonight. I see we have the officer in charge and the public safety director here, and I appreciate Administrator Barr giving us a little police report as far as stats and things for the month of September. Are we going to get to a point where we might get an update from the public safety director on where he's at with progress with the stuff he's working on? Separate from you working on, I guess, defined roles with the prosecutor's office, because I assume that's still not completely hammered out yet. Is that my correct take on that?
Let me respond this way. In fairness to the public safety director, I think clarity was needed from this committee. I think we have, we're moving in that direction. As far as your comment about the prosecutor's office, we are working collaboratively with them. Despite some comments, we have a working relationship with them. And
Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to beat a dead horse.
until it, look, especially when it comes to matters of the law, and we have several lawyers up here, that's why there is a legal profession. The interpretation of law isn't always the same, and sometimes it gets a little feisty, and you just try to find common ground. And I think we're close.
So I guess the follow-up question to that is, so thank you for explaining that, is I know he's been here at least maybe 6 months. So has his role been kind of limited until you can get that ironed out as far as his duties? Since you don't have that
I don't
clearly
know if we have
defined?
consensus on that. My response to that is absolutely. The back and forth between the prosecutor's office and us, because we thought we were, it never crossed our mind that there would be an objection from the prosecutor's office. When it came, it muddied the waters a bit. And that's not the fault of Officer in Charge Timbriello. It's not the fault of Director Peoples. And frankly, it's not the fault of the people sitting up here or our Labor Council. Our original stance was we were on solid legal ground.
And that was the advice of the council that the town has, the Labor Council.
Correct. But in the spirit of comity, that's with a T, we've worked towards common ground, and I think we may be close to a full understanding.
I mean, that's, obviously the goal, and if you can't get there, then you got to come up with a plan B, because it's 6 months in, and, it's, time's a wasting. I mean, not, I'm
In
not
fa-
saying that
in-
anyone's wasting time. I'm saying you have a lot of professionals involved. The bills are
Yes.
running up, and
In fairness,
at some
though-
point we'll get to.
In fairness, I don't necessarily agree, and Matt indeed is my friend, but I don't necessarily agree with his perspective. The reality is, there are counties, to my knowledge, all counties across the state allow what it is we try to do.
Can I also add, based on what you said at the beginning of the meeting,
Mm-hmm.
that we are, to answer your question, working towards finalizing all of it. And I do think current state, based on some things that happened last week, that it's been defined, hey, current state, this is what the expectations are of the roles. And we're working to clarify it permanently. And I think the ordinance tonight, in terms of the promotion strategies and things like that, are steps in that direction. So moving towards being able to clear all this up for all parties, up to and including the town.
So, Committeeman Dorsey, are you in line with where everything's at right now, or where we're headed?
I think we're moving in a direction finally. We're moving, which is good to see. I might not agree. We don't all agree on everything all the time.
No, I
but at least
understand
we
that.
all agree we're finally moving forward after being stagnant for like 3 months.
That's the unfortunate part is you want to get things going, get processes in place. So like even the new ordinance that you introduced tonight regarding, selection of a chief. So I would assume that's part of your process, and I would assume. But what I didn't understand, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, did I hear Public Safety Director say you were just reading that ordinance now, or you worked on that with them? Everybody worked together. It's a collaborative thing for this ordinance.
You're addressing your questions to the mayor,
Oh.
just as a form
No,
of
he's
clarity?
asking.
Well,
I'm
yeah.
asking. I'm
Yeah,
asking
to,
why.
to the mayor. Okay.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
I didn't know that. When I come
Robert's
up here.
rules. He's running the meeting.
I appreciate that, Randy. I apologize if I upset anybody. I just.
That's a good question. I mean, can somebody answer that question? When was?
Right. To be fair,
Either way,
to be
I
fair to
mean-
Frank, let him ask the question. What is the question?
I was just asking the question, and I apologize if I upset the rules here. I guess being that I know everybody here, I'm a little informal at times. I was just asking if it was a collaborative effort with our new public safety director and the Chiefs Association and Labor Council and the committee putting together this ordinance that was prepared tonight.
I would say yes.
What's that?
I would say yes, we're collaborating on all sides and we're navigating through it.
It was mainly amongst the Township Committee, to be honest, and Labor Council and Jack Pigeon. We did not consult with the Police Chiefs Association or frankly with the officer in charge or with the director really on what goes into there.
Oh,
But we did hear,
Oh, yeah. Yes, we did.
from all sides.
Prior to tonight.
So is your request or proposed solution making sure that we talk to all sides?
I think all I was trying to ascertain was, to avoid issues in the future like you ran into at the prosecutor's office when you created a position.
Yeah.
When you took this ordinance together, when you put it together, did you consult with the public safety director and and not the prosecutor's office? You wouldn't do that for this, but like the Chiefs Association, like they're going to help you with the selection process. When you were discussing the amount of years for a sergeant and whether or not they're eligible for a chief, was the Chiefs Association discussed? Because I'm sure they deal with this on a regular basis. They may had some input also that might be something different. I was just curious if you were all working as a team on this, or this was just really the council and labor attorney.
That's why I asked the question earlier about the verbiage in terms of 3 years versus 5 years. That's why I asked the question to Jack, just
was an excellent question.
articulating where we pulled that from. It wasn't the air. We
Correct.
pulled that from standard operating procedures from New Jersey Police.
From what was that from, like another department, I
Right,
assume?
Labor Council based it on his experience working with other departments, yes.
Okay, but it wasn't something, I was just curious if, you're starting to include the State Chiefs Association in, collaboration with something like this, that's all.
Yeah, I don't think they get involved in those aspects, Frank.
Oh, okay,
That's my understanding.
all right. And then, what was my other item I was gonna hit real quick? Was, so in regards to reports regarding police reports, so obviously, until the public safety director gets going with things, I understand why there's no kind of report regarding that. Maybe it would be good to hear from the police department regarding, I know it was in the Echo, but not everybody reads the Echo online. There was a break-in Sunday in Millington on Long Hill Road. updates, just, I'm not saying specifically about investigations, but we used to get like the police blotter discussed here at the meeting for the residents who don't read the paper, like, how many, drunk driving arrests, or, you have like burglaries or something like that, just public safety information.
First off, I really appreciate Officer in Charge Chambriello and
great.
Director
I think it's
Peoples
very good.
coming to these meetings. I want to say publicly thank you for doing so.
And I agree with that 100%.
It has been pointed out to me in the past what in all my vast Wall Street success led me to believe I understand anything about policing, and the answer was not much. So, to answer your question, I'm going to defer to either Officer Chambriello or Director Peoples, or both, for that matter. My guess is there is information that should not be released to the public,
Oh,
certainly
sure,
on a
sure.
timely basis. Now, I don't know if I stepped outside my lane. I probably did just there. I see on Facebook some people saying, why weren't we told about this? I don't know that you're supposed to be
I
told.
know in the past, years in the past, sometimes when there was a active incident, like one time, I know there was burglary suspects one time somewhere in Millington, they put out like the alert, the text alert, that there was, if they were looking for a vehicle in the area or something like that, if there was something actively going on. I think in the past, was that, well, I can't ask
Or
them
it was
that
like
question.
lock your doors or whatever,
Yeah,
like
it
a
was
reminder, don't leave your
something
keys
to
in the
that
car.
effect. Like if there was
Yeah.
an active incident going on, I remember they had used the text alert a few years back more often than it's being used now.
I hate doing this.
I could be
and-
wrong.
Officer Chambriello, this is your expertise. Would you mind? That's a fair question.
Yeah,
My
like I
gut
said.
is I don't want to know everything.
Well, and I also
But-
think,
And
sorry, like
I
it would
didn't
be
mean
in
to
what
put you on the
Randy
spot.
reports. If it's relevant to report on, it would be in what.
Okay,
Randy
there we go. No,
reports,
we're gonna
right?
go here.
With regard to previous rave alerts, those have gone out when there's something active in progress where somebody has fled on foot and they're not able to locate it, but they have some kind of a description or something that they're going off of, maybe a vehicle, something to that effect. The one from the other night, that one I think was at 5 or so in the morning. It was, they, with that incident, they brought out a drone and a canine to do the search, but they weren't able to locate anything. We are working on modifying that rave system for how it's going to get utilized again. Obviously, we had the discussion during the LEPC meeting, so that's still getting worked out.
And just in general, I know, it's a sad part of life that there are break-ins from time to time. It happens. We are between three highways, right? We have 78, we have 24, and we have 287. These things happen. In policing, is that something that would be SOP to, my gut says you're not going to announce that in the immediate sense. It would be as part of a report that Randy gives or Officer Chambriello may give or the director may give, depending on availability. But in the moment, unless there's I'm putting words in your
They're all tied up
mouth.
searching at that moment when it's actually happening.
Say that again?
They're all tied up searching and actively working that event when that occurs. So they're busy looking for the vehicle, doing all those activities.
And at the risk of putting words in your mouth, if there were a threat to the public, there would be some kind of announcement. Something would be involved. I'm wading into something that's not my area of expertise. Honestly, I trust you. I trust the department. The police department in Long Hill do an outstanding job. I know mayors from throughout the state, and I can tell you, not all those communities have the same working relationship and respect for their police department as we have here in Long Hill. I can tell you, in all the years I've been on the township committee, I don't recall ever receiving a complaint from a resident regarding the Long Hill Township Police Department. I've lived here 30 years now. That goes back to when Director Peoples was Chief Peoples, and all the way up till now with you, an officer in charge. So I'll take this opportunity to commend you. And I trust, most importantly, I think we trust you. Whatever you do in terms of announcing whatever you need to the public, I trust that it is in the best interest of this community.
And I think to answer your question is if it's relevant and allowed to communicate that, that would be going forward in Randy's report, right?
Yeah, my report would be a month later, so.
Right, sorry. But if it needs to come out earlier to.
And Frank, I know,
we're having
we
that
probably went
conversation.
beyond. Your question was a fair question.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Listen, I appreciate you answering the question and allowing the lieutenant to elaborate on it so the public, can hear it. And I think that's really all I was really looking for was, just when we have stuff like that, if it, maybe gets added to the report, or if she has any words of caution for the residents.
Look, as always, I appreciate
Good
the
call.
way you bring these kind of items to our attention. Every once in a while, there's a random Facebook post from somebody,
Right,
never
just put-
never gets any traction, and away it goes.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
and thank you. All right, but if you're still up,
No,
you're still up.
I'm done. That's it. I look forward, hopefully, at the next meeting, we have some progress with.
I think now that it has begun, I think it will take on some momentum.
Maybe
And
that'll
and
slow down
again,
the legal
I
costs once we get
I
there.
apologize. That's on me, to the police department. I wanted movement, and perhaps I moved it quickly without, if there was any lack of communication, that's on me, and I apologize.
One last quick question before I run. Looking at the salaries for everyone, Administrator Barr is still working for the accounting firm. He's not a township employee yet.
Can you answer that question?
It's both.
I can. I am a township employee and I work for the firm.
Both.
Oh, so it's
It's both.
both. Okay. Yeah, I was just wondering. I didn't know if it gets billed through the third-party firm or if he's an employee directly. That's what the question was. But if you work for both, the answer to the question. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you, Frank. Other members of the public, please.
Richard Dorsey, Sterling, New Jersey.
Good
Been here
evening.
for a while. I'm a little bit, back in the old days, but I'll answer one of Frank's questions about what information goes out. Back in the days when we had more policemen than we know what to do with, and probably Chief Peoples was there, we had neighborhood watch, things like that, but we had plenty of police to do that. You had a neighborhood watch guy, he would coordinate in every neighborhood, there'd be signs go up, and the information used to go out to the neighborhoods often. But I'm talking 25 years ago, when even we had more police in Chatham Township than we knew what to do with. But money was there. Police has gotten down to a lot of core issues now, core policing. But that's just to answer that question. The other thing, I think Randy does a terrific job. That's what I want to know. He's been referred to as a consultant, administrator. I mean, he has to hold this whole thing together. I didn't know what he really was anymore. I appreciate his work. He does very well here. But he's not actually township administrator.
Yes, he is. He was appointed
Okay,
township
all right.
administrator.
Okay, that's good. All right, fine.
So to be more specific, I am paid as the chief finance officer through the township of Long Hill for $1,020, and I think I escalated $8 on top of that. So $1,012 I get paid per year to be the chief financial officer. Everything else is billed through a agreement from the firm that I work for with the township.
Yeah, because I was wondering, I mean, I don't think his township administrator is a fair fair salary for what he does, actually. Okay, that's what.
Thank you.
I was wondering, I remember working in township committees, that he would be the administrator, plus they throw in, he'd still be the CFO, so that would mean, his salary was now around $200,000 instead of $180,000, which is, I think it's fair, because he's doing both jobs. Okay, but all of that. The other thing, I'm still not clear on who the appropriate authority is. I've watched it changed over 2 years, 10 times, I think, back and forth. A lot of times it was wrong, but who is the appropriate authority?
So here we go. It started out in this iteration.
Just say now. Just say right now.
right now.
The appropriate authority was?
No, no, no.
Say right now, current state.
Current day.
I've got the floor. You be quiet. You be quiet. Everybody be quiet. Thank you, Commander Dorsey. You're the only one that's being respectful right now. Director Peoples was hired as the appropriate authority. There was some uncertainty in between.
Say right now.
Director Peoples is the appropriate authority.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. That's, I think Randy should be, but that's your decisions now. The next thing, brought up the time, and I don't know what the pension's like now, but isn't it 30 years to get to your 65%? Yeah, you have to do, there are officers here that have to do 30 years to get their 65%.
But isn't it staggered?
There is some like
People my age have 25.
Alexis is still
Right.
under the old
I don't
system.
know what Sergeant Roberts is, but Joe Napolitano's got to be 30.
Yeah, there's leveled.
There's a lot of different changes.
But there's a lot of police officers. I don't know how many sergeants are under, that would be something to look into. How many sergeants have to do the 30 years before they're eligible for a 65% pension? And I don't know if, chiefs of police, I don't think any of these guys would get to be 65 years old. That used to be the law, too. Chief of police at 65 has to go. They have to retire. Chief Fortin back in Burnett Township handcuffed himself to the desk at one time because he wouldn't go. But that's the other thing. So the thing now, I think where you're talking 8 years is not in the state police. You have to have at least 10 years before you're even promoted to sergeant. Okay. You have a young man here. Maybe they are qualified. Maybe they have master's degrees in public administration, but if you're not out there for a while and see every bit of police work for, I think, at least 10 years, I don't think you should be a chief of police. That's a long time.
Well, the good news there is
He could be here for 20 years.
But the process now will include an objective process, and wherever it comes out, it comes out. If you're right, I think that would be evidence during that testing and interview.
Yeah, and I do appreciate it. I mean, I've been promoted. I was promoted 3 times to the Chiefs Association. And a lot of people don't understand. We're not civil service. The Township Committee can change the rules anytime they feel like. That's the way it works under the system we have. And we used to have, our book used to say, can change, delete, omit at any time. And the PBA had to sign off or didn't sign off on that.
Mm-hmm.
But my opinion is I would think a man should at least have 10 years in law enforcement.
Or a woman.
Or I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. Okay. Any person that gets promoted to that rank, they need some time out there. Like I say, I don't think you're going to see, you look around the state, you're not going to see many departments have a chief that started off with less than 10. Bob Falderano, I don't know, even did he have that many years? Yeah. But Bob Falderano, I've known him since he was a baby, and he was a different individual. He lived and died Long Hill Township. He didn't even get out into the real police world until he was later on in his career. Everything he did, state, local, Morris County, was for this town, and that's the way he operated. Like I said, different individual. What else? I had one more thing, I think. No. And of course, the selection of the chief of police is when I worked with it, was the township committee. They would get a chance to interview those people, make sure they're into the norm, because all police departments and towns are different. You people have to decide if they fit in to the norm of the township, what is needed here and what is expected here. And that's the way I was always promoted. I don't know how many, did you work with the Chiefs Association at all? You did? Yeah, I didn't know if Long Hill Township ever used it, but we always used it for everything.
In Chatham.
In Chatham Township, always used the Chiefs Association. And I was involved in many promotional processes and found they're usually right on key.
That's good, that's great to hear.
And I'm
So
glad
thank you.
glad you made that decision.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commander. Open to the public for those in the audience? Seeing none, Megan at home,
Pamela would like to speak.
please? If she could state her name, I know who it is. Hi, Pam.
Sorry, it just took me a second to unmute myself. Pamela Ogens, Millington, and thank you for taking my question. I see, of course, in the statement with the wages, the public safety director salary, and also I know we're not discussing ordinance 55-5-24. My question is, these seem to imply to me that the public safety director position is in perpetuity, implying that it continues forever. It is my understanding that this position was brought on board for a very definite purpose and a contract for 5 years. So would you want to put something that possibly has a beginning and an ending time in an ordinance, implying in perpetuity versus the position, in this case, being called the authority, the appropriate authority in an ordinance? Is that clear?
I'm sorry. So Pam, I was just speaking with Jack, Township Council. The salary ordinance just authorizes a salary. It doesn't mean the position has to be filled.
Okay.
And it gets
So
amended
that's
at
year to
least once a
year.
year. So if the position's no longer there, it will be removed from the ordinance.
Okay. Then you would make a change to the ordinance if the position's no longer there.
Yes. But as the mayor said, all it does is authorize a salary range for that position. It doesn't require that the position be filled.
Gotcha.
And
So
it gets updated all the time as salaries increase. Then the salary ordinance has to be amended accordingly. So we add positions and we take out positions as circumstances change.
Gotcha. So, is this position a 5-year, and then what, in year 5, you'll reassess whether it's needed or not? Or is this being considered indefinitely, in perpetuity? My understanding being that this position was created and on board for a very definite purpose. What's the feeling on the township committee at this point?
Pam, it's not a permanent position. It will, I don't want to use the word end.
Reassessed.
It will be reassessed as we go along, but I think it's important to point out that Director Peoples, because that's who we are referring to here, has a contract with the town that was voted on by the township committee and passed unanimously whenever, I think back in February.
Right, I'm aware of that. When you do these salary checks for ranges, having been a manager for more than 30 years, I was responsible for doing that for my staff on occasion. I wouldn't say every year, but certainly on a set schedule. Is it available to the public where you got these numbers from?
I think Randy can probably answer that.
These are just ranges. They're not necessarily coming from anywhere. We take a look at what the people are getting paid. Obviously, I don't want the top of the range that I have to adjust all these salaries every year. So we look to make them at least for a couple of years that we could fit this salary range in. So is it based on some numbers? Yeah, it's based on some numbers, what the market dictates, and we have a minimum and maximum. This is not the wages that are set for this year.
Individual salaries are set by resolution, but those salaries have to fall within the ranges set forth in the ordinance.
And I thank you, Pam, for your question. So I'll thank Randy publicly. He put a lot of work into researching, at the direction of the Township Committee, what would be market for towns our size, for the responsibilities involved, et cetera, and brought that to the Township Committee because the Township Committee wanted to make sure that our employees, which are in fact the most important aspect, they do far more than what the Township Committee does, they're the ones that serve the community, are paid fairly. To Randy's point, we're not trying to overpay, but we definitely want to make sure they feel appreciated and are rewarded appropriately. So the work you did over, I think, 6 months, I mean, this wasn't an overnight endeavor. When you brought it to us, it was done thoughtfully. So the numbers, there's something behind those numbers. They didn't just come out of thin air. Hopefully, Pam, does that answer your question?
Yeah, it just, having done informal checks on my own, seems, upper salary range seemed higher than I would have expected, having informally compared with like townships, what I would have expected the upper range to be. But I trust Randy did a far more extensive search than I did, and we'll leave it at that.
Can I ask, Pam, I was gonna say, if there's like a certain one or certain specifics that you feel we should make sure we're evaluating?
Well, I had presented many, many months ago the other townships that I looked at for a public safety director and the upper salary range. And at that point, it seemed like Long Hill was out of range as far as the upper limit.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pam.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other members of the public online?
Mary Ann Noonan would like to speak.
Good evening, Mary Ann.
Good evening.
Hello, Marianne.
I have two comments and there are also questions. The first one, with reference to criteria for the police chief, I have really a good question regarding how come military experiences has not been incorporated as years of experience. I know with the NYPD, you need a degree, but there's also a catalyst with regards to your prior experience in the military. I don't know if that would be a higher threshold for a candidate if they had that background. My second comment / question regarding rave alerts. I highly think right now in the world that we're living in, it's of importance that we need to bring more awareness to the public on basic things that they should be doing. Of note, Edison, New Jersey, they recently released something that there was a series of break-ins. These people, okay, and I had to be very careful in terms of how I state it, but we're fully aware right now there's crews going around. It's consistent throughout our communities. This is not the norm. And Guy, you said where you live, you're not concerned. I personally am concerned because we're dealing with a different society right now. In Edison, they're going house by house and they're ruthless. Basic things on a rave alert, I would just anticipate, I would love to get more. And yes, I was one of the people who posted it on the community forums. I grew up in New York. It's a lot different for people around here who are not aware of what's really going on. So I do think it's important to keep it even at a level to the extent of keep your windows closed. You know, we in essence, we went from key fobs and Committeeman Verleza, you've already experienced your son's car stolen. And now we're going to the point where they're bringing weapons into your home. I just think it's extremely important that there's some awareness campaign regarding this. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mary Ann.
Thank you, Mary Ann. And Officer Chiambrello and Director Peoples are here. I'm sure they heard what you had to say. And this sounds perfunctory, but they'll take it under advisement. The Township Committee is not qualified to direct either of our esteemed employees as to how to handle that. I don't know. I hear what you're saying, but I trust that they will do the right thing. And, you know, in terms of a public awareness campaign, I don't know. Maybe that's a good idea, but I'll leave that to the officer in charge and Director Peoples. But you said you had two questions. Were the questions embedded there?
Well, the first one was the criteria for police chief. I questioned why military experience was not incorporated as years of experience.
So Jack looked into it. That's not in our ordinance. I know other towns may or may not have it. Have we ever had that? I'll ask the director and the officer in charge. Have we ever had something specific in your recollection going back to when you started? We've had many military, and we thank them for their service to the country.
I believe your initial draft of the ordinance had military experience in it.
But that was to be taken into consideration, and I think the Chiefs Association can still do that. It wasn't for eligibility. I think that's what Mary Ann's talking about, eligibility for promotion.
Okay.
As opposed to, you know, one of the criteria that's considered.
Okay.
But I don't think we ever have had it as part of the eligibility.
We have not.
Process.
Not for eligibility requirements, correct.
Right.
Thank you, Director. Mary Ann, you heard the answer? I think.
Yes, but as I mentioned, I know with the NYPD, you know, it's now a degree. And then if you have the military experience, it's counted as years of service.
So, and we are lucky to have Commander Dorsey here, who was a captain in the Chatham Township Police Department, and maybe he has something to compare it with over there.
I think the chiefs may consider that in their evaluations.
Exactly.
And give maybe extra points to a man that might have more military service. That was my experience with the chiefs. Yeah. The other time where military service was involved is in hiring. If it came to two equal people that were qualified to for the job, a veteran at one time, I don't know if it's still the same way, but it was the veterans would show you have to give you should give preference to the veteran. And that was at one time in the hiring process, but I think the chiefs that's part of it, in my experience that was part of their evaluation when they do their oral interview, is they raise points to how much college you have, master's degree, things like that. That's all considered in there.
It's interesting to me though that it sounds like it's not part of the objective process where it specifically says if you served in the military, you get a point, we'll say. You're saying they can, which makes it subjective.
Yeah, it's I think it is more subjective than objective, but they will. If a man has, 4 years in...
It has to be subjective because it all depends on what you did in the military.
Right.
Well, and the oral exam is subjective.
Right. But it's all considered. I mean...
Fair enough, all right.
If you're running a PX, that's not the same as being in military police.
I don't know, Mike, did you ever serve on any of the oral boards for the Chiefs Association?
Time to move on.
but I thought maybe he might have, but they're very thorough with, believe it or not, was never a pleasant experience, believe me.
All right, thank you.
you.
I do appreciate it, Commander.
What else?
Marion, you still there?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, I appreciate it. Any other members of the public at home? Seeing none, I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We're going back into exec, aren't we?
Yes.
I make a motion that we retire to exec with no further action.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everybody. Happy Halloween.
Mike,